What's up, creator? Today I have the biggest matchup in the history of at least this week. We're going to be putting Flux Kontext in Sogni up against Google's Nano Banana. I honestly don't know which one's going to do better in different things, so this is going to be a really fun experiment, and yeah, let's go check this out. All right, I've got Gemini opened up on the left-hand side. This is just the regular Gemini web app. And then on the right-hand side, I've got Sogni web. If I open up my advanced settings, let's take a look at what I've got. I don't have a prompt yet. I think I'm gonna do one image at a time just for, make it a little bit more fair, even though I very well could do, many of them at a time. I removed my style prompt because I wanna have the exact same prompt on both of them. And so this is just easier. Kontext is selected, square aspect ratio. It defaults to 24 steps. That is great. I'm actually going to turn down to 20. I think 20 steps is going to be sufficient for me. And a guidance of 3. Why not? Let's bring the guidance down. This will make it so it's a little bit less contrasty. If I find that it's not following my prompt, I can turn the guidance back up. Let's close our advanced settings, and we're going to bring the same prompt into both of them. We could just use one of these prompts that are at the bottom of Sogni. I think that, you can already see what you would be getting, but let's do something different. I'm going to do an oil painting, and I'm specifically going to do an oil painting in the style of the Dutch Golden Age Masters, which has the dramatic, I think it's pronounced chiaroscuro lighting. It's a very high contrasty lighting style. And let's bring the same prompt over into Gemini and submit and imagine. Great, they finished pretty close to the same time. I think Gemini was just very slightly faster, but I also hit submit faster on it. Now there's a few things that I want to change on both of these. Generally speaking, I wouldn't expect to get the exact thing that I want the first try using AI, so iteration is always the name of the game. I think I want to get rid of the frame. I said I wanted an oil painting and it framed it for me, but that's not what I want. While the Gemini one, I think maybe did a better job on the textures, it didn't do as good on the lighting. The lighting style that I want is a very dramatic, specific style. So I'm gonna ask it to fix that. So we'll get rid of the frame, ask it to fix the lighting. And then with Sogni, I know that I said that I want to do a Kontext versus Nano Banana comparison, but it's really kind of more of a Sogni versus Nano Banana in Gemini comparison. And so since I'm going to do iterations in Gemini, I might as well just hop back into Sogni Web and switch to a model that would be better at this because I have them available. I'm going to use Flux Krea for this because I know Flux Krea is just terrific. And let's go into Nano and let's tell it, this isn't the lighting style that I wanted. I think the texture is good, but I wanted a different lighting style, one that is more dramatic and stark, more contrasty, and more aligned with what we would see in traditional Dutch Golden Age Masters. Let's also get rid of the frame. Great, now again, we're going to submit it in Gemini and imagine again in Sogni. All right, nice. I think they actually both did a pretty good job here. Let's open up both up big so we can see them compared side by side. I think Gemini definitely did a better job than the first time in terms of the lighting. It still has this kind of haze over the image, but it did better than it did the first time. It's also worth mentioning that Gemini always puts this watermark in their images, so that's something to be aware of. Going back over into Sogni, Krea did, I think, just a far better job making the image. You've got just kind of a texture on it, and it doesn't have that kind of perfect look that we often get with AI images. And that's why I love the Flux Krea model. I did have a tutorial on that. If you want to check out more of it, it'll be linked in the playlist in the description. But let's say that this is good enough and we want to change the style pretty dramatically. So let's go ahead and close out of this, and we're going to do a different prompt. And let's see how well we can change the style and the setting of the image while maintaining the character consistency. So in Gemini, I'm going to paste this new prompt to reimagine the man as a mountain dwarf, and we're going to do it in a pixelated video game character design style. We're going to do the same thing here, but instead of using Krea, we're going to edit it in Kontext, which I can just do by clicking this little flower here. Now, just so you're aware, if I open up my advanced settings, if I scroll down, here we go, we can see that we now have a reference image in Kontext, which is terrific. And it did default to 24 steps. Why not? We'll keep it the same. I think that that's fine. And we need to add our updated prompt within Sogni as well, and close our advanced settings. Let's imagine, and in Gemini, we'll submit. All right, cool. Now, something that you'll notice within Gemini is that it does a cool image, and we have nice pixelated video game style of a dwarf. However, a few things stand out to me. One, it definitely is not the same guy. That's just a totally different dwarf. I did say reimagine the man as a mountain dwarf, and it just did a different picture of a dwarf. So that is just kind of what you're going to get with Gemini. It's going to be very confident in that it's giving you what you want, even when it's not. It's also worth noting that he has an extra finger on that hand. So do better, Gemini. Come on. And then when it comes to context, I just think it's quite a lot better, actually. It still looks like the guy. Let's open up our advanced settings and we can see that it is the same guy. He's still got the same hairstyle. He's got the same glasses, and Kontext really excels at doing that kind of thing. But all that said, I don't want to feel like I am cherry picking here. So let's do something that's a totally different artistic style. And I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to open up a new chat in Gemini. And in Sogni, we're going to remove our reference image. I could just refresh the page, but we're going to remove our reference image. This time we're going to do the first generation within Kontext. And I'm going to generate 4 images at a time because, I can, so why wouldn't I? And I can choose the best one out of those 4. Here is our new prompt. And if you want to pause the video and read it, you can. It's going to be a really cool kind of vibrant 1980s pop art style of an album cover. That's really cool. So I'm expecting it to be like really vibrant and cool looking. Let's put the same one in Gemini, and we're going to submit and imagine. Okay, cool. Now, I do think this is actually a pretty cool image. I like that it added groove melt and bass drop and some other random stuff in there, future frequencies. I will say this is definitely not what I would consider like 1980s pop art style. Pop art tends to be much more vibrant and kind of simple. So again, I think while this actually looks really cool, I think it's a super cool image, but it's just not very good at adhering to the prompts, I don't think. Now, to be fair, I think that Kontext also did a really cool job. I think that these are maybe a little bit over contrasty, but it's certainly more 1980s pop art, at least what I would consider. But yeah, these are super cool. I like all of them, actually. I like this one as well as these 4. I think this one's probably my favorite. Let's go ahead and save it. And then once again, let's see if we can change the style. And I want to do a style that's like radically different than what we have right here. So let's reimagine her on a rooftop garden with overground plants, string lights, and the New York skyline during golden hour. Let's do the same thing on this one. There we go. Edit in Kontext. Now we're ready to go. Let's test it out. And I'm just going to do 1 for the context. I think that's sufficient. Yeah, they both did kind of a similar job, I would say. I think they both did a good job at this skyline. In this case, it didn't do golden hour. Gemini didn't do golden hour. That is certainly nighttime, and it kept a similar style and everything. But Kontext definitely did a better job, I think, of doing what I said. They both have string lights, but like having the lighting different is not ideal. I mean, I could tell Gemini, make it golden hour. Oh, that's doing that. This is a cool one. There we go. Oh, that's very, very golden hour. It's a bit more pink than golden hour, but I think it did an admirable job. So I think when you're using these, it's really a matter of personal preference. Do you want one that like doesn't do exactly what you want, but it just kind of fills in the gaps and is easy to use? Then Gemini is great. But if you want more creative control, you want to generate more images, you want to be able to change the style more easily, you can do that just so much better in Sogni. You can change models. It just gives you way more freedom. If you want to do different aspect ratios, Gemini is just not great at it. It just won't do it. For example, now let's change it into a landscape aspect ratio. In Sogni, instead of telling it to do it, I would just select a landscape aspect ratio. So if we wanted like, something that's like a widescreen, there we go. Now there's one other thing I want to do, because what that's going to do is crop it, and then I can't see what's going on with her hands. So I'm going to open the settings, and I'm just going to zoom out. There we go. And I hope that still works. I've actually never tried that before, but we're going to see if that works. I think that should do a good job. And let's imagine now. And while that's going, I'm going to tell Gemini, you failed. That is still the same square aspect ratio. I would like it to be a landscape aspect ratio, like a regular widescreen aspect ratio, maybe 16:9. And there we go. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. I love it. Let's go ahead and download it. Now, is Gemini doing what I want it to do? I did see that this is a common issue with Gemini, that it just won't do different aspect ratios. It's very inconsistent. I know if you're using the API, you can tell it to do it, but even then, it's not as consistent. I've seen people that are uploading a 16:9 transparent image that's just fully transparent to kind of force it. But if you're having to do that, you're kind of missing the point. This is supposed to be an easy to use tool, and if it's not easy to use, just use a better tool. That's the way I look at it anyway. The last thing that I wanted to mention is that I'm using my personal Gemini account to do this. So all of my prompts, everything I've been saying to it is being fed back into Google to be used as training data, which I don't love, especially since I'm paying for it. I think if you're using the free version, then that should be fine. But unless you have like a workspace account or you're using the API, it's always using your training data, which is kind of the opposite of Sogni, where everything you do is completely private and we don't even have access to it. That matters to me. If that matters to you, then obviously this is a much better choice. Now, of course, there are other capabilities of Kontext. If you watch my other Kontext video, you would know that we can take multiple images and put them together. So we could take maybe a subject here and a style image from the extra reference image and slap them together and do that. So I think that that's something that would be cool to test in a future video. And I know you can do the same thing in Nano Banana, so it'd be interesting to see how they did. And maybe we would start with the same images in both cases, but I think that that would make for a really cool part 2 video. Now, I hope that that was useful. I try to be as objective as possible and talk about the pros and cons of each of them, but feel free to let me know in the comments if you think that I could have done something differently. I would love to hear other ideas and we can test it in different ways.